Hi everyone, and welcome to a new episode of Home Coffee Brewing with April. As you guys probably know, I haven't been around for a while. I've been quite busy doing things in Copenhagen. Now I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm super excited to get back on track with all of these home brewing videos. Been running around LA to kind of try some different coffees, which has been really cool as well. And now we're gonna go up to Joehan, and we're gonna brew some coffee together. So come with me up. So, hi everyone, we're back actually doing homebrewing videos, and I'm in Los Angeles, and I'm quite excited. I've been away for a while because I've been quite busy doing other stuff. I do run a company also, but I'm super excited to get this started, and super excited to also brew some coffee.
Yeah.
Do you want to walk us through a little bit what it is that we're gonna brew, maybe? Like the coffee first?
Yeah, of course. So first off, I'm Joe. I run a small roasting business here in Los Angeles called Moim Coffee. And this particular coffee is something that you should be a little bit familiar with.
I saw, I came in, I saw the bag, and I went, are you stealing my coffee? It's actually one of my favorite coffees, though.
Really?
Yeah.
The Pacamara specifically?
So I have a thing for Pacamara coffee,
okay.
Which I think people know. And this version of the varietal, altitude, farm management, is impeccable. Pacamaras has this thing where they sometimes taste a little bit kind of oniony, very herbaceous.
Yes.
And this, I think, have very little of that, and a lot more berry-like and kind of cool qualities.
Yeah.
Anyhow, before that though, so your own roastery. Tell us a little bit about why do you have your own roastery? When do you start your own roastery?
Yeah, so a little bit of a background. I actually first started my roasting journey being a production roaster for Be Bright. So shout out Frank Law, previous US Barista champion.
Yeah.
But anyways, for me, I kind of wanted to progress my coffee journey rather than just being a barista. I wanted to get a little bit of an understanding of what the back end looks like, and being able to, establish more of a relationship with producers, because I felt like that's kind of something that's not really talked about a lot of the times, especially within LA. I feel like it's a little bit rare to go to know who exactly you're working with and know who's behind these coffees.
It feels like, and I mean, saying coming from someone that is not in the US roasting scene, but it feels like you guys are very focused on importers more so than anything else, really. So maybe that's why it's a bit disconnected.
I'd want to say so. I'd say predominantly most roasters, just in the States in general, we rely heavily on those exporting companies to provide us an offering list and being able to choose. I just think logistically it makes a lot of sense to do so.
Yeah, for sure.
But for me, I just felt like there was a huge disconnect with that. So for Moim specifically, at least while we're small, I wanted to be able to really prioritize on knowing who exactly we're working with. I wanted them to believe in us and vice versa. And so Morito was actually one of the first farms that we met at SCA Expo back in 2023.
Okay, cool.
That's kind of how we got connected. Funny enough, it was actually through a cupping, in origami. And I've been trying to get a hold of them for the first 4 months before, leading up to that. And finally he was like, hey, here. It was Ronald actually. But he was like, so here's some samples. Just let me know how it tastes. And then, the rest is history.
That's actually how I met them too. It's a bit random. Yeah, because I was in Dubai.
Okay.
World of Coffee.
Sure.
A friend invited me, and I did not know about these guys whatsoever.
Yeah.
But they won the Cup of Excellence in Guatemala with one of their niches the year before that.
Okay.
And I was cupping, and I came across their Pacamara and their Yellow Geisha.
Yes.
And I went, okay, but I have to buy these coffees. So I went to the farm 2 months after. I was like, I'm going. So saw the farm. They're very cool. They're a massive milk producer.
Yes.
As well, which is really cool.
When I was talking to me about the whole farming and the was it fertilizers and how it helps, and I was like, sure.
It's a whole kind of ecosystem, right? And they're super cool. Okay, awesome. So you stumbled upon this coffee, which is really nice. What have you roasted the coffee on?
So currently I'm roasting on a S9 Stronghold.
Cool.
And before that, I was actually roasting on a Loring, so it wasn't too big of a shift, but still trying to get a better understanding of how the Stronghold works, especially with like those extra features with halogen, like the drum heater and whatnot. It's like extra variables, right? So,
extra variables, which are fun, but they're also a bit tricky.
Yes, really tricky at times.
There's a few. I mean, you guys know this as well. I like both Loring and Stronghold, right? And I think I favor Stronghold a little bit these days, I think. But the issue, let's say, with the halogen, for example, is that the power that those lamps generates is going to differ quite a lot from first month of roasting to 6 months of roasting. So you have to be on top of like regular. It's a lot of small things with the machine.
Yeah,
that gets a bit technical, but good machine.
Yeah,
very cool.
But yeah, I mean, this particular coffee, it's a little bit fresh, to be honest with you. Yep. So I roasted this past Monday. So
it's like a very fresh
it'll be quite a bit of a journey.
To, like, serve me fresh coffee. I don't know. Cool. No, but I'm excited. I'm also open-minded in that sense.
Cool. I mean, if it doesn't work out, like you can always say that it's
we blame the roaster if it
right?
doesn't work out. That's what I do. That you can do. And I think it's to be fair, when I roast on Lorings, we have a default 2 weeks minimum. We don't even cup the coffee before that because it needs to be rested, it needs to be stable. I think that a lot of the roasting I've done with Stronghold, especially when I go into competition mode, I've actually used much fresher coffee than what I would on a Loring.
Is there a reason why?
It tastes good. Like very often,
I
don't have much scientific. But it's if it tastes good, it tastes good. You know, I would never argue with it, right? Let's see here though if this tastes good first, right? Cool. Go for it. Do your thing. I mean, I see an April Brewer, which makes sense. Maybe talk a little bit about the grinder.
Yeah. So this is the Easy Presso K Ultra.
Yep. K Ultra. Is that a new thing or have I missed it?
I'm pretty sure they've had this for a while now. Yeah. I mean, this was actually recommended by a good friend of mine, Christian.
Yep.
Him and I.
Like Christian.
Like Almond Noon Christian.
Yeah, like Christian second place in the World Brewers, American Brewers Cup, winner of the April Brewers Cup in Hong Kong.
Yes.
Like his track record, competition-wise,
is crazy.
Is unheard of.
Yeah.
Like really, like for literally competing twice, winning the first one in Hong Kong, which is not the easiest April Brewers Cup to win, and then second place directly this close to beat Justin, like very close.
Yeah.
Justin also with April Brewers in the open service.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah.
Hi, Justin.
Yeah, he's gonna come here so he's gonna be judging the April Brewers Cup, which is happening here in Los Angeles on Sunday.
Nice, cool. But yeah, he recommended me this grinder.
Yep.
Back at the time, I was running a very interesting recipe.
Yeah.
So for me, my biggest thing was sweetness. I felt like that was what I always preferred.
Yep.
And in order for me to really highlight sweetness, what I did was utilize a recipe that's similar to like osmotic flow or like Japanese, like kind of like little droplets. But basically what I would do is pour like almost 12 to 13 pours in the beginning and then just finish it off with one long pour. And he was saying that this grinder would pair well with that.
So you still do that?
I don't anymore.
Okay, you don't anymore.
Reason being was because after competing in the national brewing competition, I realized the shortcomings with that. It wasn't necessarily too balanced. And so where I'm at now with my brewing journey is trying to explore a lot of different brewing recipes just to get familiarized with it, because I felt like I didn't want to limit myself with just one particular recipe.
Fair enough.
So yeah, it's actually kind of similar to a very traditional April recipe of just equal pour, circle, and center. But instead of 100 or 200 grams of an output, I'm doing 240. Just because I wanted to use a little bit more coffee.
Yeah. Fair enough. Let's go for it.
Cool.
Yeah, these are two bags of the same coffee, just so I'm not confused.
Yeah. Sorry. Just
cool.
Yeah.
No, go. You go for it. I'm gonna check it back. How important? I mean, let's talk at the same time. But how important is, let's say, the branding aspect of your roastery? I'm switching subject here a little bit, but it's an interesting one. Also because I'm not sure if you ever There's like a Sprudge article with the very first April bag that existed in the history of April.
Sure.
And that was like the ugliest thing I ever seen.
That's what Sprudge said?
No, that's what I said. No, Sprudge was very nice about it. They were like,
because
it was like minimalistic, not Scandinavian.
Sure.
In my head, it was like the only thing I could afford and the only thing I could do with very short notice.
Sure.
Right? I think this looks a lot more curated than.
So, I mean, it is quite a bit of a similar story in the sense that I was quite a bit on a budget as well.
Fair enough.
But the idea was that I wanted it to kind of reminisce a postcard almost.
Yeah.
So, it's
100%.
So it's basically kind of like the producers sending a postcard to you of like back at their
That's
place.
really nice.
And then obviously the stamp would be Moim, because we would be like the middleman sending that over to the consumers here in LA. Yeah, so that's kind of like the idea behind it. Yeah.
Does that also tie into the name itself?
So Moim actually translates to gathering in Korean.
And that's why it says gathered in Los Angeles.
Yes.
That was my second question.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Then it all makes sense, right?
Yeah, it all makes sense. Yeah, we're thinking about it.
Which I think is important, to be fair. Cool. Grind size, maybe.
Cool. So grind size with the K Ultra, it's, I believe, at 6.6.
6.6.
Yeah, so it's not too fine, but not too coarse.
Yep.
I'd say it's like a medium fine, almost.
How much do you think grind size matters?
It does matter. Now, I think a lot of people tend to religiously look at grind size as like a fix-all type of situation, and that's something I don't agree with.
Okay.
Yeah. Like, I think it does matter in the sense that, you know, depending on whether you want to open up the coffee or whether you feel like it's too opened up and you want to close it up, or being able to provide a little bit more. I'll just stop it there.
Yeah, fair enough.
I feel like I'm going to be rambling on, and like I don't want to.
Which is also, like, it sounds like you have more of a philosophical approach to grind size almost, which is quite liberating, because I think a lot of people have a very, like they're going in the other direction where they're a bit too focused on particle distribution. They don't quite understand it. They don't link that to taste experience as well, right?
Because I just think there are other variables that you can dial in to get the type of flavors that you want. Yeah.
What are the flavors we want, actually?
So
based on the bag.
So when I tasted it yesterday night.
Yesterday night. Okay.
Yeah, yesterday night. There was a lot of like that peach, like stone fruit notes at the end. The body is a little bit more tea-like. It's not like too heavy, which I like. Then if extracted correctly, there should be a little bit of berry notes as well.
Yeah. When you say that the body is a little bit tea-like, is that a reference to, let's say, the green coffee itself, your roasting style, your brewing style?
Sure.
Or like, where does that, is that a combination of the three of them?
I'd say it is a combination, but specifically, I think this coffee in general is just a little bit more tea-like.
Yeah.
I'm not like exactly sure the reasoning behind that, but especially when I cupped it, when I was first sampling it, it was like very apparent that there was a lot of like more like oolong texture to it and body. And that's kind of like what drew me, and the sweetness. Yeah. But yeah.
I very much agree to all of this, I have to say, because I've worked with this coffee, right?
Yeah.
So I'm super curious. Okay, so we ground the coffee. You dosed how much? 14?
14 grams.
14 grams. 240 grams of water.
Yes.
You said. Tell me something about water quality, water temperature.
Sure. So the water quality, I'm using third wave.
Yeah,
so
cool.
Something very simple.
Yeah.
Very familiar.
Just the classic.
The light roast profile. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Awesome.
And then the water temperature, I'm using 90 degrees Celsius.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's just kind of been
a
like,
bit on the lower side in a way.
In a way, it's just been kind of like the sweet spot for me at least.
Cool.
Yeah. But yeah.
Let's go for it.
Cool.
Okay. Aggressive first pour, circle over to center. Ah, yeah. So you're really dividing it into 2 pours. You just increase the volume. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
So it's just a 60-gram circle, 60-gram center.
Yeah.
Trying to keep it nice and aggressive.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah, it's very different from my original approach, and that's kind of why I'm diving into such a different extreme.
Yep.
Yeah. And then at 45 seconds.
Why 45?
Just to be able to. The idea was that if I were to brew multiple, it would be like the sweet spot to be able to brew multiple at the same time.
So it's a bit of a competition move, kind of.
Essentially.
Yeah. Which is very true. It makes a lot of sense. And I've always advocated that the recipes we use in the, let's say, World Championships or wherever we compete, when we do 3 at the same time, it's not always the, let's say, the optimal recipe. It's the recipe that fits when you're brewing 3 coffees at the same time.
Yeah.
Right? So it's the best recipe for brewing 3 coffees at the same time.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't done like too much testing with it exactly, but then at least when I'm doing it in service, it's pretty helpful that I can pour multiple. Yeah.
Do you guys have like a coffee shop or something?
So at the moment, we've been doing just like residencies.
Okay.
Operating as like a coffee shop, but not really. Yeah. So I have like a mobile cart system. Everything is like detachable and you can set it up.
Awesome.
And at the moment we've been setting up actually pretty close by here. It's called the Solark Brewery. It's right next to Bub and Grandma's, but we've been there for like the past 2 months.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's cool. What is the, I mean, because now we're just waiting for this to drain anyway, right? What's the most challenging part with starting your own coffee business?
At least for me personally, it's like a constant pursuit of just like, for me, excellency. And I think what happens a lot, like the hardships behind that is there's a lot of doubt because there's constant comparison or there's, you know, like seeing other people's journeys and like seeing how far they're going. And it's just like, oh, like, am I really doing the right thing? There's a lot of doubt with it.
Why am I not as successful as the other guy?
There's a lot of doubt with it for sure. But for me, what's kept me sane is just kind of going back to the idea of what I love about coffee. And I feel like what a lot of coffee professionals love about coffee. It's not necessarily like coffee specifically. And what I mean by that is I fell in love with coffee because it's something that I'm passionate about and I'm able to share that with other people, right? And like the act of serving an individual, acting as if they're your guest in your home. I just feel like there's something about that that's very intimate, but also very like you don't really find that experience in a lot of other industries. Yeah. And that's what honestly keeps me going with it.
No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I usually say that it's the only advantage you have as a business owner, like a conceptual owner of something, is that it's you, right?
Right.
That's really the only difference, right? Apart from that, we're all just coffee businesses, right? But you're the only one with this coffee business, right? And so same here with YouTube. Like if we were looking at, you know, Lance Hendrick or James Hoffman or whatever, and see like why are they, you know, as successful and we are not, it's quite easy to understand why. But the thing is, you know, it's in the end of the day, you do your thing, right? And then you're happy when people like it. And that's the only thing you can do, right? And the people that are very successful, I believe got there because it did their thing, right? So just keep on going, right? Cool, so we have some coffee. It smells like coffee at least.
Yeah, hopefully.
Fancy cups. Do we have a reasoning behind the cups?
They just look
looks
nice.
very intentional.
It's from my friend Cezik. They look really nice. He did a blue bottle collab.
It very much looks like a blue bottle.
Yeah.
Okay, so it is a blue bottle.
It is a blue bottle collab. Cool. He's a really talented ceramicist based out in LA. But yeah, we just like his stuff.
That's pretty cool, a blue bottle though, to do a collaboration with him. But they do cool stuff here.
Yeah.
It feels like in the US they do a lot, and Japan to be fair, right? But like they're like one of the big brands that still do cool stuff, right?
I agree.
Cool, awesome. Cool. Anything we should think about when drinking this or enjoying this? Like, do you have any kind of protocol for us, or just drink it?
Just enjoy it.
Yeah, just enjoy it.
Just enjoy it.
So let's talk a little bit about the elephant in the room, the April Plastic Brewer, right? It's here, so we should say something. Is there was there consideration in, let's say, material when you got it? Was it just something that happened to be there? Did you steal it from a friend, or like what's your like take on the brewer versus like other brewers? I assume you brewed with a lot of different equipment.
Yeah, a lot actually. For me, to be honest with you, my favorite April brewer is not necessarily the plastic. It's actually the ceramic.
Yeah.
I just like ceramic brewers in general.
Yeah.
But this is kind of like the only one that I had, and that's kind of why I'm using it. And I did want to explore the hybrid, but it is a little bit inaccessible. So
is it really? No. Yeah, we had some delivery issues, which we're fixing, by the way. I'm putting that on the record.
Nothing against it.
What do you think? I haven't tried it yet, but what do you think? For me, it's very exciting to go to the other side of the planet and drink like a coffee I know very well, brewed on a brewer I know very well. So I'm roasted on a roaster I know very well. Like
what are your thoughts?
Oh wow, he's trying to get away from. I think it tastes like a Pacamara from a Morito, which is like step number one, right? Like a good coffee, you need to be able to taste the origin, taste the varietal. In the best kind of case scenario, taste the farm as well, right?
Yeah.
Which, to be fair, is difficult. It's not always you can do that.
Yeah.
We work with 2 Pacamara coffees from Guatemala, actually. You have El Morito, which is in the Jalapa region, which is basically on the east side of Guatemala City. Yeah. And then you have El Socorro, which is in Palencia on the west side.
Right. Okay.
Actually about the same 2 hours drive, either direction pretty much. And I can always taste the difference in the 2 very clearly on like the cupping table.
What's like the key difference between the 2?
I think the thing is it's a not a general difference in the varietal itself. It's in just the farm management. Because all of the El Socorro coffees taste like that, so to speak. And all of the El Morito taste in the same kind of sphere, regardless of the varietal. So like you still have this very distinct taste of how they approach things. Okay. This coffee, for example, this is hand sorted. Diego de Socorro does like an external dry mill, machine sorted. It's like a different vibe also. This has a bit more, I think, berry-like strong fruity sensations to it. It's a bit sweeter, whereas the El Socorro Pacamara is a bit lighter, a bit juicier maybe. Okay. A bit more strong fruity when it's the way it should be. But I think they're still both very good coffees. Tell us a little bit more about the actual roasting.
The actual roasting.
Yourself.
Yeah. So, funny enough, I'm kind of in like. It's like the beginning steps of a different path towards my roasting philosophy. Okay. Because before I was all about just roasting it, really light, but like very quickly.
Okay. What's very quickly? Give us a number. Is it like a 5-minute roast?
No. So like 6-7 minutes. Yeah. And that's because before I transitioned into a stronghold, I was using a Loring. Yeah. And it's a really long story, but the only Loring I had access to was a 35 kilo. Yeah. Okay. But then my volume never could amount to that. So I had to basically run the roasting machine in lukewarm state. Yeah, sure. To be able to develop the flavors enough and get like a relatively not like super fast scorching roast. Yeah. But the way that I did that was I would start it at lukewarm. Yeah. And I would use like the minimum batch, which was like I think 15 pounds. So that's not even like 7 kilos. Okay. Wow. On a 35 kilo Loring, and it's
a challenge.
Right. Yeah. And I think what amounted to that though was that I was able to get a really long roast. And when I say long, I'm talking about like 9 to 10 minutes. Yep. Okay. In comparison to like a very traditionally fast roast. And what I loved about like that time frame was that it would just be so sweet and juicy. Mm-hmm. But then I could never get that when I was using a stronghold. Yeah. Because I didn't really know how to do that, and I wasn't really too familiar with that. But more so recently, I've been trying to play around with it a little bit more, and this was actually the first roast where I was able to hit those time frames.
Okay.
And that's kind of why I opted to utilize a fresh roast, because that was something that I was excited about in terms of like, oh, this is like the first step towards back to that journey of like being able to roast a little bit lighter. Because my philosophy was that by putting less heat in the beginning, I was able to kind of not draw out too much moisture, allowing for the coffees to be a little bit less soluble in terms of like being able to push it a little bit more during the brewing process. So that's kind of like the result. And interestingly enough, I don't really know too deep into like the science behind it, but for some reason, even though the color reading is the same as like my previous roast that were a lot faster.
From the Loring or
from the Stronghold?
From the Stronghold.
From the Stronghold. Kind of doing this approach and getting that time frame, it's helped me to actually draw out a lot more like fruit notes. Okay. But also like this might just be a placebo at this point, but it just looks visually lighter. Which so the color
by roasting longer.
Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Yeah.
The thing is you're stressing the coffee less. That's one thing. Like color is always going to be 100% determined on what's happening after first crack until the end of the roast, right? So you can do very different things before crack and end up with a similar color, right? So it's a helpful tool, but it's never the whole truth, right?
Sure.
Which I think is an important one to keep with you. But I think in general, people always roast too fast. Always.
I agree.
That's like my biggest challenge with people when they roast. They roast too fast. And it's not just too fast after first crack, it's the total duration. Yeah. It's just too fast. Just stress the coffee. Coffee needs time, especially when you're like us on the very light scale of things.
Sure.
You can't add like a 5-minute total roast time on top of that. You're just gonna have like a stressed, confused coffee. Right. And you can taste that as well in the palate. Right. So I think giving the coffee time makes a lot of sense. Halogen, no halogen, a little bit of halogen. So high, low.
I actually start off low to begin with, mainly because this particular coffee, the Harvest, when I received it, the moisture was a little bit lower than I would have liked. So I noticed that if I were to bump the halogen to like, because I would usually bump it up and initially drop it at like 6. Yep. But if I did that, it would just taste way too dry. Okay. And so I actually start the halogen. I do like a soak approach where like I do like slowly step it up. And that's kind of like when I told you I would watch the April videos for like the roasting, like my earlier stages of trying to learn how to roast. That's kind of like the one thing that did stick with me of like trying to do more of a step up approach just to be able to provide more gentle heat all throughout. But I would do a step up approach for the halogen, and my max halogen would be at like 4. And I would actually cut the halogen after it starts yellowing. There's like, I haven't done too much A/B testing with it, to be honest with you. But from the little amount that I've done so far, what I've found is that getting rid of the halogen, especially for like a filter roast, helps to get rid of like a more like drying aftertaste. Yeah, so that's
100%. I'm actually quite against halogen from a roasting perspective. Love Stronghold though, just saying. Last question about roasting, batch size.
So once again, I don't have enough of a volume to justify just one single batch size every single time.
Okay, so you do fluctuating batch sizes.
But what I've done more so recently is just, even if it's like a pain logistically, just using the minimum batch, and just if I need more, I would just roast a minimum batch again. So I've been roasting at a 3 kilo batch, even though it's like a 9 kilo roaster.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And like full disclosure, when I started April, the first 6 months, we roasted, or I roasted because I was the only person there, but I mean almost for like a year, we roasted the batch size that was ordered. Like there was no way that we could afford having a bunch of overstock, right? And not knowing if that coffee would be sold, right? So it's a journey. Obviously, we stopped doing that a long time ago, but you know that's how we started, right? And I think it's part of the process. You know? A small roastery has to do things a little bit different from like a bigger roastery, right? And I think that's an important thing in general to notice, right? Back a little bit to the coffee. So how do you actually think it's tasting now?
To be quite honest with you, there is a little bit of dryness
sure.
at the end.
I mean, it is too fresh. Let's be honest about that. But
Sure.
1 week is difficult, right?
Sure. And that being said, I don't want to fully attribute it just to the freshness, even though I know that it can play a big factor.
Sure.
But I like the texture overall. I like that it still has like that nice like peach stone fruit note to it. It does have like a
100%.
slight like berry, like more like red berry note to it as well. But yeah, the only thing that I'm just not like too big of a fan of is just the dryness at the
It's
end.
a little bit dry, but I mean, you also like the sensation of oolong, which you have on the bag as well. Like that actually fits in really well in kind of a nice way.
Yeah.
I would bet you that the dryness would disappear within a week or so without really any issues, and it's not overly dry. Like there is a bit of dryness. I think it's smart. You already took the temperature down, which makes a lot of sense because that helps dealing with that kind of freshness, I think, initially. So that makes perfect sense. I don't believe we mentioned total brew time.
Oh, so the total brew time was roughly 2 minutes and 30 seconds.
2 minutes and 30 seconds. So give us a bit of a recap. So 14 grams of coffee.
Yeah, so I do 14 grams of coffee. I do 240 grams for my output. And then I do 2 pours. It's 120 pours,
easy.
60 gram circle, 60 gram center for both pours.
45 seconds in between both.
So 40...
from the first to the second.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm confusing him.
Yeah. And then
90 degrees Celsius water.
Yes. And
Third
then
wave?
third wave.
Yep.
The brew time. So I tried, if I'm gonna be very, very specific, I try to keep it for 6 circles for my 60 gram circle pours. Main reason is I just want it to be as like identical as possible. Kind of like a big thing related to competitions.
Yes, because
you just need to be able to replicate it.
Exactly. They will basically look at, okay, but how did you pour here?
Yeah.
How are you pouring here? How are you pouring here?
Yeah.
Is that consistent, right? So it's a bit of
it's a very competition thing. But that's like the good thing that I learned from competition.
100%. Consistency, for sure, cleanliness, work structure, all of that, right? I think it makes a lot of sense.
Right.
Cool. Is there anything we've forgotten to talk about? I think we've been through most of it, right?
Yeah, that's...
Where maybe you mentioned, I mean, are you selling these coffees?
Yeah.
Can anyone buy it somewhere? Where do you buy it? How do you buy it?
So there are a couple shops that we work with wholesale-wise across the states.
Awesome.
So there is one in Columbus, Ohio. Shout out to Little Cat.
Little Cat?
Yeah,
Cool.
so Raymond, if you're watching, you can get it at Columbus, Ohio, as well as... what else is... There's Try Coffee in Hawaii.
That's awesome. Okay.
And then there's also Maker's Cafe in Florida, and then 203 degrees Fahrenheit in, I believe, Seattle. I'm pretty sure it's Seattle.
Okay, let's hope it's Seattle. Otherwise,
I'm
it's
so
very
sorry,
nice.
Samuel, if it's not in Seattle, but I'm 99% it is.
Okay. And if it's not, that's okay.
Yeah.
Someone will correct us. It's YouTube, so they will write it somewhere. Right?
But also, we sell everything on our website at moimcoffee.com.
Awesome.
And if you want, we also have Instagram, Moim Coffee LA.
Which we make sure to link all of this
Yeah.
below somewhere, right? So make sure you tune in and check it out, right? Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah.
I appreciate you taking the time and letting us come in here and taste some coffee.
Yeah, I appreciate
Again,
you.
it's been a while since I've done these videos, so I'm apologizing if I made a fool of myself. But it's good to be back, and we're gonna do more of these videos because it is a lot of fun. And I'm gonna just make some time, right? So with that, like, thank you guys for watching. As always, comment, subscribe, do all of this. Patreon, I still have somewhere, even though I keep on forgetting using it. But sign up anyway. Thank you again for having us. It's been super nice.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, guys. We want to give a special thank you to all of our Patreon supporters. It's because of you that we are able to continue to make these videos. And we want you all to feel free to always come with suggestions and ideas on the content that you want to see, because we are doing this for you and because of you. Thank you from all of us here at April.